March 21st, 2023, Selectmen's Meeting. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First item of business this evening will be the Municipal Officers Workshop Business Public Hearings. On these, the public comes up. We ask you state your name at the podium. We'll attempt to answer any questions the public may have regarding the matter. And then the board will reserve discussion until after we close the public hearing. At which point the board can move on to ask members of the public if they want to follow up on something. So the first of which, we have a public hearing on a retroactive ordinance to amend chapter 145 land use of the code, the town of Wells, to update the definition of a registered medical marijuana dispensary, restrict the number and location of registered medical marijuana dispensaries, and change the performance standard requirement for a registered medical marijuana dispensary. Anybody from any members of the public like to speak? Seeing none, we have a motion.
I move to close the public hearing and discuss the proposed ordinance changes.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Board discussion.
I'm all set,
Good?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I think we left off with the setback question.
Oh, yeah.
Right, the 1,000, that was the only
1,000 feet to
question.
2,000 feet. Oh, yeah.
And we kept it, it looks like it's at 2,000 right now.
That was what the planning board had wanted.
Right. And I think we said if we didn't hear any different, we'd stay with it because they had already passed it forward.
Well, we just said we'd wait to see what the public said. I'm still not in favor of upping it to 2,000 just because it doesn't seem to really do anything. It's just targeting.
So state law is 500,
We're already
we're
double.
1,000, and we're looking at 2,000.
Right. Do you know why their rationale for doing that was?
For going for 2,000
Yeah.
feet, I think it was mostly based on, we had an application before the planning board that was, it met the 1,000 feet. It was about 1,200 feet from the middle school, about 1,300 feet from the activity center, about 1,300 feet from some daycares, which the setback applies to as well. And just visually, I think the planning board thought it looked close and that distance should be more.
But it, right,
But if we go to 2,000, then that
that one's got.
one place becomes non-conforming.
Right.
I'm happy with the 1,000 feet.
I think it, right, on that, because of that. Otherwise, we're gonna automatically put something into the world of being not in accordance with the ordinance, so
And that's not a usual goal.
that's not the usual goal, right?
Like if a new daycare facility opens up within a certain distance, within the setback of these facilities, do they become non-conforming because of the presence of the new facility?
It only applies to existing at the time of approval, and the ordinance is specific to that.
Because then the, whatever is being built, knowing that that's what's there, so.
Correct. And I think that was the original thinking back in 2011 when that setback was first initiated as 1,000 feet. And worded in that way that if someone comes in later and opens a daycare later, they already know that's there.
Okay. I don't have any problem if you wanna keep it at 1,000 either then, because I don't wanna push something into non-conforming that so quickly.
Where these are all medical facilities,
Yeah.
for anyone to get inside, they've gotta have
Yeah.
an ID and a license to get in the first place, otherwise they can't even get inside, so whether you're of age or not, nobody's getting in without a license. So I'm fine with 1,000.
So if we were to agree with everything else, it would just be as amended to 1,000 feet on that one, right?
I believe so.
You don't have to, I mean, do we have to amend it? Because the current ordinance says 1,000.
The proposal
The
is
proposal
listed as
says
2,000.
Right.
And that's the way it was advertised for this public hearing, was
Right.
at 2,000 feet. And the thought was that if it did change, it becomes less restrictive than
Yeah.
what was published, so
Yeah.
that would be okay.
Right, that's why we went with, that's right, Mike, very good, I remember that.
So do we have a motion?
Okay, I move to vote to include a warrant article regarding the proposed ordinance changes as amended to a 1,000-foot setback on the June 13th, 2023 town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have a public hearing on an ordinance to amend chapter 53 Planning Board of the Code of the Town of Wells to change the quorum requirements of the planning board and to eliminate references to historical planning board. Mike, you wanna just give a update on that one? Just what it
Yes.
was?
Yes, thank you. This was an ordinance change that was initiated by the planning board. And the current ordinance calls for, it's a 5-member board currently with 2 alternates. And it calls for a minimum quorum of 4. Typical under Robert's rules in most boards, if you have a 5-member board, it's only a quorum of 3. So the planning board was recommending or requesting that it be changed from 4 to 3. Makes it a little easier to conduct meetings during the winter when there's bad weather or conditions that prevent some board members from appearing at a meeting. So it would make their operation a little smoother if they could have a little bit less quorum.
Very nice one. Would anybody from the public like to speak on this?
I would,
Okay,
where do you want me to?
at the podium, please, and if you could state your name.
Mary Ellen Terrio. I was just concerned about the part that said eliminate references to historical planning board.
You wanna take that one?
Yes, there's one line existing currently in the ordinance, it's paragraph H, that states that the existing planning board is hereby disbanded on December 31st, 1993, and a new planning board shall be appointed with terms beginning January 1st, 1994. So it was a historic reference to something that occurred back in 1993, so it doesn't have any effect in the operation of the planning board, so we propose just to eliminate that line.
So just housekeeping, really.
And it has nothing to do with historical buildings or anything like that.
No, nope.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, also, it's not like those provisions would evaporate for historical purposes. The town clerk has copies of every ordinance that's been passed, so there would be a record of that in any event, if that's the concern.
Yeah, that was a concern. Okay, so so it's gonna be amended to 2023 with when you change the ordinance from 93 to,
Can I just see?
Oh, sure.
Do you want me to?
Yes,
answer that?
please.
So anytime there's a proposed ordinance that is to be changed in any way, it's the same format the charter requires it. Any additions are underlined, any deletions are stricken, and everything else appears the same. So in this case, I think no, there would not be a reference to 2023. It just strikes out that sentence in its entirety.
oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. So there's no historical repercussions if something happened before
No,
1990.
anything that happened before 1993 stands, it's just this sort of superfluous extra language that is not necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to speak? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move to close the public hearing and vote to include a warrant article regarding the proposed ordinance change on the June 13th, 2023 town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Moving on to a public hearing on a land swap and lease agreement between the town and Fisherman's Catch, Cardinelli's Real Estate LLC. Okay. Do you wanna say anything, or? So no, I don't even think we can have you up there. Mike, you wanna just give the public a brief
Sure.
rundown? Sorry, Ned.
Yes, thank you. This is concerning a property down at the harbor, Fisherman's Catch Restaurant. Most people know where it is. The owners of the restaurant came forward to the town last fall and wanted to resolve some boundary line conflicts along the property, along the sideline of Harbor Road. And confirm an area where they could operate their current food truck and their outdoor seating area. The layout of the Harbor Road goes back to the 1700s, and there's a section of the old limits of the town right away that actually cross into the building that is Fisherman's Catch. That portion of the town encroachment is protected by state statute. But to add some area in front of the restaurant, a little bit of breathing room to the front of the building, and to add to the land beside the restaurant for, as I said, their outdoor patio area and their food truck area, there'd need to be an adjustment to the sideline of the town road. If you can see on this plan, there's still a lot of room between the edge of pavement and the proposed property line along the front of the building. There's also a property line adjustment proposed in this area that would define their private parking area to the town parking area in the front, along the road. So there are a couple of elements. The owner of the property asked the town to, what would be involved with conveying the property to them to clean up the sideline of Harbor Road. And in exchange, they would convey to the town this area that's hatched on the survey plan, which represents the old Harbor Road that leads out to an old wharf area. Doesn't have any development potential, but it has historical significance to the town, and it would be a benefit to get that back in town ownership. The other component is the area you see on the plan hatched in red, and that would be an area that would be a parking lease. It would be a non-exclusive lease, so the public can still park there, but the restaurant parking would be insured as well directly in front where their customers come into the restaurant, and there's a small waiting area there as well. So the three components are that the town would convey part of the town land to this parcel. This parcel would convey part of their land to the town, and the town would also convey a lease for that parking area in front of the restaurant.
Well, would any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move to close the public hearing and vote to include a warrant article regarding the proposed land swap and lease agreement on the June 13th, 2023 town meeting warrant.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. We're gonna move on to some licenses. First being, we have Mike DiNardo, DBA The New England House Seafood and Sports Bar, 124 Post Road, Wells, application for a full-time malt, wine, and spirits liquor license. Any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next up, we have Jacob Condon, DBA Battery Steel Brewing, 60 Mile Road, Wells, application for a full-time malt, wine, and spirits liquor license. Any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have Jacob Condon, DBA Battery Steel Brewing, 60 Mile Road, Wells, application for a special entertainment permit. Any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have Wells Chamber of Commerce, 136 Post Road, Wells, application for a mass gathering permit for a powwow to be held on July 22nd and 23rd, 2023 at Wells Harbor Community Park. Any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have Wells Chamber of Commerce, 136 Post Road, Wells, application for a mass gathering permit for a Chili Fest to be held on August 26, 2023 at Wells Junior High School. Would any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have Wells Chamber of Commerce, 136 Post Road, Wells, application for a mass gathering permit for a family jamboree to be held on September 30th, 2023 at Wells Harbor Community Park. Any members of the public? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have Wells Chamber of Commerce, 136 Post Road, Wells, application for a mass gathering permit for the Veterans Day 5K road race to be held on November 11th, 2023 at the Wells Elks Lodge. Any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. And lastly, we have Wells Chamber of Commerce, 136 Post Road, Wells, application for a mass gathering permit for the Christmas parade to be held on December 10th, 2023 on Route 1 from Wells Plaza to the junior high school. Would any members of the public like to speak on this? Seeing none,
I move to close the public hearing and grant the license.
Second.
all those in favor? 5-0. Next up, we have good news.
I'd also offer some good news. Prior to this meeting, we had a budget reconciliation meeting with the Budget Review Committee, and the two boards reached consensus very quickly. And I'm very proud of the budget that we're presenting. I think it meets our service needs, and we are very fiscally responsible in the budget we'll be bringing forward to the public. And I just applaud both boards for their real due diligence, some great work on that, and thank you for your staff support. Winter cleanup is underway. I know we had a lot of tree devastation. We have a crew out working for a number of weeks now, and they will continue trying to pick up all the tree debris that is in the right of way, but right now they're focused on the limbs that are hanging that in a high wind might fall and impact any of us. And so we're just cognizant of that and trying to mitigate that safety issue. Spring is here, and so despite the forecast that might be coming in for Saturday, we refuse to recognize snow any longer. And some great news, last Thursday night, we had a meeting about the upcoming dredge in Wells Harbor, and the proposal from the Army Corps of Engineers to place sand on Wells Beach and Wells Beach only. We had a number of people from the public that came and spoke with regard to Drake's Island and the need for sand renourishment along the beaches, or beach renourishment with sand along the beach in Drake's Island. And late this afternoon, I received notice that the Army Corps has reconsidered, and they do intend to place sand on Drake's Island beaches. There's a lot of work to be done on behalf of the town to get the easements that are needed to be able to place the sand in those locations, but with the help of all the board and staff, we'll be working diligently to meet those time requirements. But the good news is I think we'll be replenishing sand on both Wells Beach and Drake's Island. So, good news.
Excellent, great news.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to share anything? Anything they want to share? No? Well, moving on, we have open to the public for the first time this evening. We have 10 minutes set aside for any general questions or concerns the public may have. We ask you come up to the podium, state your name, and try to keep it to 3 minutes just so everybody who would like to speak have a chance. Any members of the public like to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Jake Condon from Battery Seal Brewing. Just want to say thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Looking forward to being a part of this town. It's a great community you have here, and as soon as we can get open, hope to see all your faces there.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you and good luck. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, appreciate it. I'm going back to pink.
Absolutely. Would anyone else like to speak? Seeing none, we'll move on to current agenda items. The first of which is review and action on accounts payable and payroll warrants. Any discussion?
I move to approve and sign the accounts payable warrant dated March 21st, 2023 in the amount of $2,511,313.86, and the general assistance warrant dated March 21st, 2023 in the amount of $354.90.
All those in favor? 4-0 and 1 abstention. Moving on. Update, discussion, and action on committees, projects, issues, purchases, and personnel. We have A1 being a public hearing for the Joint Budget Committee and Board of Selectmen fiscal year 24 budget and warrant articles. Any discussion? No? You have a motion.
I make a motion to hold a public hearing for the Joint Budget Committee and Board of Selectmen fiscal year 24 budget and warrant articles on April what? 4th, thank you. April 4th at 6 p.m. at 208 Sanford Road at the Littlefield Meeting Room.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion and action on approval of an assignment and assumption of lease agreement for Webb Hannet River Boatyard Inc. and KPT Maine LLC. So who wants to kick us off on that one?
I can do that.
All right. Sounds
Okay.
good.
So as you'll recall, the town has a lease currently with the Webb Hannet River Boatyard. And part of that lease, it's a long-term lease, and one of the provisions is that it may be assigned to, excuse me, another party. And I think, I don't know if it was the last meeting or a meeting before that, that you had the two parties come before you and discuss, you know, that Webb Hannett was going to be transferring their business over to KPT Marine and or KPT Maine, I think it is. And you had asked that our firm draft up an assignment consistent with those terms. We did so. If I recall, Mike had vetted it with the parties. I think it's Mr. Worthing at Webb Hannett and also Mike Shea at KPT Maine. And they both were in agreement with the terms that we had drafted, maybe a tweak here and there, very minor, not substantive, just who should be notified in the event of any notices had to be sent out. That was it. Everybody's agreeing.
All parties are here tonight.
Oh, and I didn't
They-
know.
They have.
Perfect, yes, excellent, so I'm not speaking through you, I see some nodding, so that's good. And if there's anything perhaps the gentlemen want to address, then, you know, that now's the time, but other than that, I think all of the parties have vetted the agreement, seemed to be in agreement, and now it's simply just for everybody to sign on the dotted line. I don't have the agreement in front of me, my recollection is that it would be to authorize Mike to sign on behalf of the town, doesn't require all of your signatures, and then the other folks can do so as well.
Excellent. Any discussion from the board?
Nope, I'm good.
Good. Motion.
I move for approval of the assignment and assumption of lease agreement for the Webb Hannett River Boatyard Incorporated and KPT Maine LLC and authorize the town manager to sign the agreement.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Great, thank you. Next, we have discussion and action on acceptance of an easement deed from High Pine Properties LLC. Mike?
Yes, this is a proposal to confirm an easement, really. When the town accepted the conservation easement, originally as a conservation easement on the 458 acres of conservation land behind the village of High Pine, there was a reference to the town getting an easement to access that conservation land across the Village of High Pine condominium property, but it wasn't very specific. And on the plan that was recorded, that was referenced in that instrument, it just said the roads on the plan. So obviously there are proposed roads that are part of the development, but there were also a couple of old woods roads in the area that were never intended to get an easement across. So this is a confirmation easement really to confirm that the public access to the conservation land is across the condominium roads that I've highlighted on this plan. And it also specifies the connection, there's a small public parking area here, and there's a trail to be established. That'll actually connect from that public parking to the town's conservation land, which is on the other side of this dotted line. And it also added language on limitations on the town's use of that trail. You know, there are allowed forest activities on the conservation parcel and how that notification would be given to the association in case it was ever used for that purpose. So it's a refined document to better define the easement that crosses the Village of High Pine property. And it's a dedication or a gift, if you would say, to the town. So it doesn't require town vote, just the Board of Selectmen to consider it and vote to accept it.
Any discussion? Bob?
Nope,
Nope, all right.
good to go.
Oh, we have a motion.
I move to vote to accept the access easement from the High Pine Properties LLC to the town conservation land.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thanks, Mike. Next, we have discussion and action on acceptance of a fire hydrant easement deed for the Topsail subdivision from Seal Harbor LLC. Mike again.
Yes, I have a portion of the plan up on the screen, and this is to accept an easement to a hydrant that's been installed on the private property of Topsail Way, which is a 4-unit subdivision off Bailey Road. It's on private property, so the town needs an easement to access it and use it for other firefighting purposes for the region. Part of the subdivision approval process requires that the developer grant an easement to the town, and it's required as part of the ordinance. But it also, of course, requires the Board of Selectmen to accept that as a gift again. So that's what this item is, and if you'd consider voting to accept that hydrant easement, that'd be great.
Any discussion?
Yep, I think
Seeing
it's
none,
good.
do we have a motion?
I move to vote to accept the fire hydrant easement.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion and action on seasonal landscaping bid award. We only had one bid, which was received from Boulay Landscaping for $22,800. Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a question. How much was it last year? Do you know? To do this?
On that one, and I don't see Jody
Jody's
here,
not here,
so my
okay.
parachute's not here, but I
Okay,
don't,
that's
I don't
okay.
know.
That's all right. I just wondered if it had
Could I
increased.
phone a friend?
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't know.
Nope, that's all right. That was just one of my questions I had noted in here. Oh, wait, here she comes to your
Oh,
save.
there's-
Oh, yeah.
There was a bat signal or something.
I believe it was right around 17,000.
Okay, so it did to go up, and this was the only bid?
That was the only bid, but that also includes the pocket park, which the other bid did not.
Oh, okay.
I could break down very quickly if you'd like, or I have copies if you'd like to see how it's broken down.
Yeah, cause I didn't see it in here, right?
I'll take one for after, but
Yeah.
I don't need it now.
Pass those around if you would, please, sir.
That's all I was asking. Since it was only one bid, I just wondered what.
Yeah, it's good to have.
Thank you.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, I see. Okay,
Any discussion? Seeing none?
I thought Tim was gonna take care of the pocket.
Yeah, that's what he told us.
I will not, not your luck.
Wait, did you, I thought it was a lifetime commitment. Yeah. I move to award the bid for oops, wrong one. I move to award the seasonal landscaping bid to Boulay in the amount of $22,800.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion and action on a bid award for extraction equipment for the fire department. Two bids were received. We have an enclosed memo from the fire chief. Chief? Good evening.
So, as you guys might have already gone through, we had two bids come through. One from Fire Tech and Safety for Amcus and another one for Harrison Shader, which was the Genesis tool. From what we got from them, it was very close. However, one of them did have a much better end result, and we were actually pleased with that because we actually have one Genesis tool already from a couple of years back. So the batteries are all compatible, the chargers are all compatible, so it was actually a pleasant surprise, and we felt that regardless if it was close, that this was probably the best choice anyways. So I certainly have, can answer any questions. The one thing I did wanna explain was that the CIP was approved back last year for $47,860. That was the quote that we got at the time. Since we weren't able to get on this quickly, unfortunately, the prices went up. So I would be asking that the $3,587 to meet the $51,447 quote come out of a account that we've combined several other finished projects for the fire department into one. And that would leave $5,178.69 in that account. Does that make sense, what I said?
Yes. Does that need to be, that whole thing need to be
You
included?
brought up a good point though, and I would just ask a favor in the future, is if something that comes in that's this close and the piece of equipment that would allow us to have continuity were the more expensive one, could you just make a note of that? Because to me, that would seem like a case of, penny wise, dollar stupid in the long run.
Sure,
So, just a request.
yeah, absolutely.
So that's good that we'll be able to have some crossover with the batteries and parts. It's hugely valuable.
Sure thing.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have a discussion. If we were, do we want to say that and to allow the request for additional to come out of the account as well?
I think that would be
That'd be good,
helpful,
okay,
please.
all right, let me do my best. I've been like grandstanding tonight. Are we ready?
I think so.
Okay. I move to award the bid for extrication equipment to Harrison Schrader Enterprises in the amount of $51,447, of which $47,860 will come from the CIP extrication fund, and an additional $3,587 to come out of the account 0734-51000.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you, chief.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have discussion and action to schedule a public hearing on the 2023 beach parking pass policy. Discussion. Seeing none? We have a motion.
I move to schedule a public hearing on April 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m. 208 Sanford Road in the Littlefield Meeting Room to review the 2023 beach parking pass policy.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion on the financial security of the town's deposits and investments. Jody, I'm sure we'll probably wanna have you come out for this one, I imagine. So Mike, you wanna just kinda give a background of what spurred this and?
Yes, obviously, we've seen some significant incidents regarding some banks, a few banks across the country. And in discussion with the chair, we thought it would be very prudent to bring this matter forward, make sure that we do our due diligence locally, correspond with our local bank, in this case M&T Bank, to make sure that the town's coffers are secure. And so I'll be passing out tonight some information about M&T Bank, which also will include an irrevocable standby letter of credit that we receive monthly, which guarantees our funds as well. And today Jody and I met with representatives of M&T Bank. But it's just making sure that we do our due diligence as finance and as town manager to ensure the people's monies are well protected. So that happened today. I'll be handing out to you folks, to the board, the M&T Bank portfolio information, as well as a copy of the irrevocable standby letter of credit. And again, that letter of credit comes monthly. Jody keeps all of those. And then there was a section that I corresponded back to both the chair and to Mr. Foley, because those were questions that were coming up. And this highlights information that came out of our most recent audit. On page 37 and page 38 of our audit, it talks about deposits and investments and how the auditor does that drill down every year to make sure that the town's finances are well protected and secure. So you'll be able to look at that information from M&T, both the irrevocable letter of credit and the information from our annual audit.
And I do just wanna give credit to Selectman Foley for bringing up this topic. That was a good thought and thought it was a good idea given the climate that was out there, so thank you for that, Bob.
Yes, thank you.
Everything looked good?
Everything looks very good from
That's the only
our
bank that we
perspective,
have.
and
Yes.
we have a very local contact with M&T that I know Jody's in touch with quite frequently. And they had one of their, I'll say regional representatives meet us as well today. But I am very comfortable with where we are, and especially with our irrevocable letter of credit that's on file.
Alright, excellent. I'll read through all this later, but obviously I won't be able to sift through all of it now, so I figured I would ask and we'll trust your judgment. Anything from the board?
No, I just appreciate, John, you agreeing to do that, and Mike looking into it, and Jody, and
Sure.
it just, with everything that was going on, it just
Yeah.
seemed to me that it was appropriate that we ensure ourselves and the public that, we're cognizant of it, and we're gonna watch out for our monies and make sure that the town's not in jeopardy, so I appreciate.
Yeah, thank you for thinking of it.
It's really wonderful too, I have to say, having two of their representatives come and meet in person. We know that not every bank does that, local or larger. And to feel as though there's a personal contact there that we can touch every day if we need to, very helpful.
That's hugely valuable.
Absolutely.
Good to know that too.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Anything else from the board on this? Oh, alright, well, then we'll move on to discussion and action to approve a corrective release deed for the following. S&D Properties LLC. Property is currently known as parcel number 0039 /006-015. The tax lien was filed on August 22nd, 2019 with book and page 18378/458. A municipal release deed was filed on November 21st, 2022 to discharge the tax lien. However, the owner was incorrectly stated as S+D Properties LLC. Discussion from the board? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the corrective release deed.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion and action on an ordinance to amend the charter of the town of Wells to convert the position of the town clerk from an elected to an appointed position and to schedule a public hearing regarding the same. Discussion from the board. Seeing none?
I move to schedule a public hearing on April 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m. 208 Sanford Road in the Littlefield Meeting Room on an ordinance to amend the charter of the town of Wells to convert the position of the town clerk from an elected position to an appointed position.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion and action to accept donations and bequests. The first is a $100 donation from Janice Mahood to the Wells Police Department for treats for canine Bacchus. Next, we have a $900 donation from Eileen Fortune and Robert Agan to the town of Wells for the Fuel Assistance Program Fund. We have a $2,750 donation from Friends Supporting Wells Public Library to the Wells Public Library. We have a $25,000 distribution from the estate of David C. Hardy to the Wells Conservation Commission Land Bank Reserve Fund. We have a $250 donation from Wells Winter Warriors to the town of Wells for the We Are Wells Fund. And we have a $250 donation from For the Love of Food and Drink to the town of Wells for the We Are Wells Fund. Good motion.
I move to accept the generous donations and write a letter of thanks to the donors.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have discussion and action on approving minutes of March 7th and March 9th, 2023 selectmen's meetings. Was everybody present for those? All right, so we don't need to break them up.
I move for approval of the March 7th, 2023 and the March 9th, 2023 selectmen meeting minutes.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Thank you, Cindy. And next up, we have new business. For the second time this evening, we have open to the public for 10 minutes, same rules. Ask the public, state their name at the podium and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Yes, hello, my name is Walter Woods from York Building and Design Center. In reference to the executive session that you'll be holding right after this, and my question to you is, will I be able to state a narrative in reference to an overview of the process during the executive session, or do I need to do this within the public forum?
Do you want me to?
Oh.
Do you want me to
We go here, yeah.
Sure. I'll earn my keep tonight. So during the executive session, you know, I think the board has the authority to ask whomever they want into the executive session, but I think it would be unusual to have the party with whom you're entering a consent agreement in the executive session. I think personally, my preference is to have that conversation amongst yourselves so I can sort of talk about the terms and pros and cons legally, et cetera. But the second action, there's an agenda item that is worded, discussion and action to schedule a public hearing. I think that, I'll be candid, when I was conversing with Mr. Wood's attorney, Phil Saucier, I think the intention there was that there be a little discussion for you to understand what their intentions were with respect to the consent agreement. And so I think it is appropriate in that context and as worded to have Mr. Wood address that and then schedule. And the reason why we talk about scheduling a public hearing is because traditionally whenever the town has entered into consent agreements, there's this Pike and City of Westport case that talks about consent agreements. And in this particular case, it may not be necessary, but as a general proposition, I think if that's what the board tends to do, it would make sense in this case to go forward and have that consent agreement, because there are interested parties, other condominium unit owners who could be affected and may wanna have more of an opportunity to speak. I know Mr. Woods has submitted some written materials from those folks for your consideration, but I still think that, you know, if it's in your opinion a good idea to have the public hearing, I would advise that.
Okay, but to get to Mr. Woods'
I think
question
we
there,
have
that
our
would be the
executive
time for him
session.
to speak would be.
Yeah, I
now.
mean, you could, I think, maybe amend your agenda to have him speak to you beforehand, or we could have the executive session come out and then he could address, whatever you think makes more sense.
Which would you prefer? Would you prefer to speak to us before or after the executive session?
I would like to speak to you before, only so I can give you the history of the process of what happened, of why I'm sitting in front of you folks today.
All right, well, how
And
about
I think it'll help clarify what happened and why it happened.
What I would propose is that as long as the board was agreeable, that we move Mr. Woods up prior to the executive session. We'll just put that in there for a brief discussion around it. We'll still have to discuss the public hearing matter after, but that'll give Mr. Woods his time, and unless we wanna just keep it into the open to the public for 10 minutes. That's it.
It's fine.
We'll get, right before the executive session, we can have your narrative. That way, if there's anybody else from the public that has something else they'd like to speak about, we'll give them their opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Anyone else from the public like to speak? Yes. Please come up and state your name for those who don't know, and
Nancy Ford Wells, it's just a quick question. On the ordinance to convert the position from elected to appointed, with this time frame, will it make it onto the ballot if in fact the public hearing is held April 4th and so forth and approved? It would still make it on the ballot with this time frame. That's all I wanted to know.
Yep.
Thank you.
thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the town manager's report.
Just want to take a moment to again commend the staff for their really very hard work, their due diligence. We are seeing increasing service demands on many of the departments. They are unwavering in their commitments. I just want to thank them for that. We have had some meetings, as the board had asked, with public safety entities. And those have gone very well, and that includes police, fire, and WEMS, as well as our partners in Agunquit that we dispatch for. Right now, there are some tours occurring with other dispatch centers to look on how best to potentially automate run cards, dispatch cards for our fire service. That will require a lot of work to be done, but the fire service and dispatch working together can do that. And I think in the long run, that will make a much smoother dispatch operation. And ultimately, I think relieve some of the strain on our dispatch personnel. So those meetings are happening, the tours are happening. I know one has occurred and we hope to have a couple more. And we are planning monthly collaborations with WEMS. So all of those components are moving forward very nicely. But again, kudos to the staff for their hard work.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. Next, we have a discussion regarding vacancy on York County Budget Committee. So, Mike, you wanna tee us off on that one?
Well, this, I think you have a copy of the memo that came in, and Selectman Foley suggested this be on the agenda. It looks like in our area, we have 2 vacancies, and that's the the area that represents Elliott, Kittery, Agunquit, Wells, and York. So there are 2 vacancies available. If the board wanted to suggest someone for those positions, when the meeting comes up, and I guess I'm trying to remember when that, April 12th at 6:30 p.m. at the York County Courthouse. I would encourage people to be there to vote in support of what you might be for an elected official.
Well, Tim said he was looking for something to do.
I already did it.
Poor Tim.
Is elected official, is it any elected official? I mean,
I don't know, I believe, I think it's you folks.
As long as they're an elected official in town, it can be school board,
Okay,
it can be sewer district,
okay, as long as they're elected.
they're elected.
library?
I'm not sure then.
Or the public at large, it also can be a public at large. Or the public at large, it also can be a public at large.
There is one already. There's 2 elected positions. May I come up and speak on this one?
I don't have an issue with that. Does any, go ahead, Nancy, yeah.
No, this came up at a meeting. There are 3 positions on the board for District 5 for the Budget Committee. One of them is a public citizen, and that one is already filled by Susan Wiswell of Kittery, okay? There are 2 elected positions, and I checked, and every information that I received, that it had to be a municipal officer, not school board, not library, it had to be a municipally elected officer, a town officer, which in this case, considering how we're structured right now, it's you guys. And perhaps the town clerk, because that is still an elected position, but I don't know that for sure. But I did check on this because that is 2 seats, there's only 3 on the budget committee for this whole county district. Okay, for your whole York County Commissioner and Budget Committee. There is 3 seats, 2 of them have to be elected, 1 of them is already filled, the public one. And there is York, Elliott, Wells, and Kittery. And Ogunquit, I guess. But maybe not Ogunquit. Anyway, but District 5. And to have no representation from towns as large as York and Wells on the Budget Committee at the county level, I think is ridiculous. We spend a lot of money and send a lot of money off to the county. I think that Wells and the larger town at least should have representation on the Budget Committee. That's my opinion. And it doesn't take a lot of work, okay? It's short duration and very few meetings. So I throw it back in your lap. But it has to be a municipal official, not school board, not library.
Thank you, Nancy.
Now we want to, he's gonna speak, we're gonna do a public hearing
What's that?
before.
Yeah, I was just looking at this real quick.
Can we have, can you check on that, Mike,
I can.
and get clarification from whoever
I can, and then bring that back to you for
for the public
April
hearing?
4th, because you still have time.
Alright, yeah, we'll circle back with that then. Next, we'll, let's, do we wanna get a motion to amend the agenda, or we just wanna have Mr. Woods come up? Just, alright,
Yeah.
Mr. Woods, let's take some time and have a discussion with you and hear your narrative you wanted to give us, and you wanted to come right up, and actually you can have a seat right here if you want. If you lean it right up there, we can, yeah.
But I do have could I just pass out a?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just a little package with the abutters letters, also a little diagram of the units 5 through 8.
Thank you.
So you can see what we're proposing specifically. This problem.
Oh, sorry, Scott. It's okay.
I'm just gonna read this directly to you. It'll take a long time, a lot of your time to read directly what we're looking at. So again, good evening. My name is Walter Woods, President of the York Building Design Center. Thank you for taking the time for this evening to listen to my proposal to rectify the setback issue between units 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, Fairway Village. I would like to take you through the process that has brought us to this point, so that you have a clear understanding of why I'm sitting in front of you today. Enclosed in your package that I've submitted are a colored site plan of units 5, 6, 7, and 8 with the proposed solutions outlined and a copy of the 30-foot perpendicular measurements between 5, 6, 7, and 8 outlined in blue. There are also letters from a direct abutters of the property in question. They are supportive of leaving it as is, or as well as the proposed change to unit 7 as outlined in the consent agreement. I poured the foundations for units 5, 6, 7, and 8 in October of 2021 and had the town foundation inspected completed. In March of 2022, prior to the framing of units 7 and 8, I was notified by the code enforcement officer that the rear setback of 7 and 8 and 5 and 6 did not meet the required town ordinance. I then hired a surveyor to do a certified plot plan for units 5, 6, 7, and 8 to confirm the code enforcement's findings, which were correct. After meeting with the code and planning departments in reference to this issue, I moved forward to file a mislocation application appeal with the Board of Appeals citing Plan Note 20, which states minor variations from the approved plans to building envelopes, utilities, and other site features may be approved at the discretion of the town planner, engineer, or code enforcement officer. Minor variations would include building vertical variations of 1 foot more or less and horizontal variations of 5 foot more or less. I was heard at the Board of Appeals meeting in May 2022 with this submission. During discussion at this meeting, I was under the understanding that all parallel rear walls between units 5, 6, 7, and 8 had to meet a 30-foot setback as outlined on the site plan, which showed a perpendicular measurement of 30 feet. I was denied the reduced setback as proposed. In July 2022, I proceeded with cutting back the foundation rail walls to meet the 30-foot perpendicular setback between the units, as this is how I interpreted the Board of Appeals direction. The rear projection shown on the plan of units 5 and 6, highlighted in orange, fit into the indentations of units 7 and 8 like a puzzle, so that the parallel rear walls would have a 30-foot setback as ordinance requires. We poured the new rear wall of 7 and 8 in August 2022. Unfortunately, without my knowledge, the foundation company did not call in for a foundation inspection, as is typical in protocol in my business. All subs are responsible for calling in their own inspections, but at the end of the day, this falls on my shoulders. We poured the new rear wall of 7 and 8 in August, unfortunately without, we completed unit 8 first and called in for final inspections, for an occupant inspection, and then were notified by the code enforcement that we did not meet the 30-foot setback required. The town code enforcement's interpretation of the measurement is an angular measurement and not a perpendicular measurement as shown on the site plan of sheet 3 between units 5, 6, 7, and 8, which you'll see on the site plan.
Whoever has their cell phone, can you just turn it on silent, please? Just thing keeps going off. That's all right, thank you. Please proceed, Mr. Woods, sorry about that.
I did also include a plan note 20 in the package, just outlining what I submitted to you. And the last part of it is I'm requesting the solution with the consent agreement that you have in front of you with the items listed below. I will cut back the first and second floor rear walls of unit 7, hashed out and marked in red, to meet the 30-foot setback as interpreted by the code enforcement to be released of the violation that the town has in place on unit 7. I'm requesting that unit number 8, hash marked in green, to remain as currently built and receive permanent occupancy due to the folks that are living in there right now and having to move them out or whichever the case after the fact. I want to stress to you that I am taking full responsibility for this unfortunate issue that I have created with the town and with my customers. I am hopeful that a positive solution can be reached with the least impact to my customers living in Unit 8 with the temporary occupancy at hand. I firmly believe that Plan Note 20 would allow the town the flexibility for this solution, as it gives the town discretion to allow this. Again, thank you for your time. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Is there any questions from the board?
Is unit 5 occupied?
Yes, Unit 5 and 6 are occupied and sold.
Yes. Thank you.
And then with the 7 I own. So that's why I'm willing to do whatever's necessary. You know, I could bring 7 into compliance to meet the interpretation of code enforcement if we could keep 8 as is, and that's basically what the consent agreement is based on. And these are the folks right here who actually physically live in Unit 8, that if they're able to have a statement as well, but I'm done, and thank you for your time.
Absolutely, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You want your drawing?
Thank you.
You folks, did you wanna speak? You wanted to, you would stand at the podium and just state your name if you could.
I'm Gene LeClaire. This is my wife Barbara.
53 years we've been married, so we stand together.
Good.
We're the owners, we're the prospective owners, we're the hopeful owners of Unit 8. I just wanted to tell you that we've been visiting wells for over 15 years. And we jumped at the chance when a 55 plus community became available. You're well aware that that's rare in Maine. And we are so satisfied living here. It's such an enjoyable town. We love the house that Walter has built. We love the 55 plus community that's being formed and that Walter is creating. The urgency for us is that we are facing a mortgage lock, which is going to run out. And so we're particularly interested we can resolve this, or this issue can be resolved with you and Walter. So that's the main point I wanted to make. I also want to bring to your attention to tell you that throughout this process, Walter has been generous, he's been forthcoming. When the issue came up in May, he called us. He offered us the opportunity to back out of the agreement. We didn't need to discuss it.
Didn't even think about it, just.
We wanted to live in this community. So we have appreciated his generosity. He's been open with us. And we hope that you'll take these matters into consideration when you make a decision on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any questions, these folks from the board, before we move on to the executive session? No, all right. Well, appreciate that, Mr. Woods. Thank you for your contribution as well. With that, we're gonna move on to, you get a motion on moving on to our executive session.
I move to enter into an executive session pursuant to 1 MRS Section 4056E to consult with the town attorney regarding the board's legal rights and duties relating to a proposed consent agreement with York Builders and Design Incorporated regarding property located on Fieldside Drive and more particularly described as tax map 32 lot 13.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Just ask members of the public, step out of the room while we conduct our executive session. We can